Apparently, I'm live. All right. Fascinating. I am actually a little surprised. I didn't expect that this would actually work right away. I thought there'd be some sort of a lead in. So I apologize if you're just joining me. Hopefully you're, yeah, okay. So we're apparently live. So I apologize. We're trying from a service that lets me stream from Zoom out to multiple places in the world. And so this is actually kind of cool. So, um, yeah. Fascinating the way this works. So give me a moment. Unfortunately, this is going to be kind of boring if you're watching this after the fact or whatever, as I wasn't actually anticipating being live for another 3 minutes. So let me get my notes, get a glass of water, and, and just got to continue on here. So unfortunately, what I just realized that this is not telling me and is not giving me any kind of idea on is if people are actually watching. So I'm going to see if there's some way to know that. So I might not be able to interact with you the way I was previously, which is sad, but that is all right. So do, 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 do. Yep, yep, yep. Looks like we're on Facebook. We are on YouTube. Yep, yep. Hearing myself say yep, yep, yep. So that tells me we're good there. So let's get this over here and let's get started. I'm just going to assume either people are with me now or will be with me soon. So welcome. My name is DJ Eshelman. I am a um, I need a good title. I need a title that actually describes what I do. I've called myself a transformational coach in the past. I've called myself a consultant in the past. Ultimately, what I am is a person who wants to see his fellow created beings lifted up, encouraged, and equipped to leave this world better than they found it. And so that is the grand vision that I have, and hopefully one that you will take on as well. And so today we're going to be talking about just in preparation for fasting, which, by the way, is going to be happening on January 10th through the 20th. So 10 days of fasting together. We do have a Facebook group that is going on right now. Actually, it's streaming to this right now. It is facebook.com/groups/ oh, hey, it would help if I actually had that up in front of me, didn't it? Should be 11 talents. Sorry, my bad. 11 talents 2021 Jan. So I should, that was memorized by now. So facebook.com/groups/11 talents 2021 JAN. So that's our fasting group. So I encourage you to join that. There's a few entry questions that you'll have just so I can make sure we aren't getting any people that are spammers or whatever in there. Actually, I already blocked one bad account. So yeah, just making sure this stays private and appropriate, and for a audience like ours, that it's always a risk to go out on a limb and do something that's very faith specific, but that's exactly what I'm doing. I am very specifically addressing a Christian audience. And so if you're not a Christian, you're offended by this, hey, you were warned. And I'm not going to be sorry about that. You were warned. So if you are a Christian and do want to learn more about either starting a business or a side venture, or if you already have a business and you want to seek God and what you should be doing this year with it, that's exactly what I'm going to be doing. I'm going to be, I've push the pause button on any kind of goal setting for the year. Literally, I have nothing written down. I use Michael Hyatt's Full Focus Planner. And if you go on the front of this, then you'll see that my annual goals, if I can get to that page, is empty. There's a reason for that. I've had just a stellar 2020. And this all came from a period of fasting early in the year. And it's kind of what I'm realizing is that I really want to carry that in 2021 in such a way that I'm coming at this with a blank slate and saying, I only want to do the things that God has empowered me to do and for the reasons that God has empowered me. And so that is my goal with this. And so I figured I'll invite people along for the ride because, I'm the Deej. I don't do anything easy. So that's what we're out to. Man, this feels weird. I've got to say this whole going from Zoom with nobody in here. I can't see comments. I can't see things like that, and I don't know if I'm ever going to do this ever again. So maybe I'll figure out some way to actually see these kind of things. I'm wondering if I open up my Restream chat, if there's something that will show up on that. You never know. But this is a new and awkward experience. But anyway, let's get into it. Fasting experiences. So I have fasted in a variety of different ways over the years. I initially in my faith journey, I thought that fasting was something you did when you only did like water only, and that was the only way to fast, and you only did it when you really felt convicted to or something like that. I had weird thoughts about this, as it turns out. Fasting can be really any kind of way you're going to purposely limit or deny yourself something. So most commonly that's food, because that's something that, our bodies are programmed to seek food. It's what we do. And so limiting that in some fashion puts your senses on alert, and it makes you more aware of things. Even though you might be more tired physically, which is a very common side effect of fasting for the initial phases if you're fasting food, it puts you on alert to the things you're missing and things that you might not be having. And with that alertness comes a lot more awareness of additional things. And that's the reason why I have fasted over the years. Some people fast for health reasons. On Saturday, my friend Kevin Davis and I are going to talk about that more. And so in our Facebook group, there's a link to that event, which I was going to do over Zoom, but now I'm not 100% sure I'm going to do. But we'll see how we end up structuring that. If I can figure out a way to make this more interactive, then we'll do that. Otherwise, we'll just use the other streaming service. But he is an expert on especially the ketogenic lifestyle. He wrote this book here, which is fantastic. You should totally get it. And he's going to be talking more about the body mechanics of fasting and the benefits there. But I wanted to talk to you about my experiences as far as spiritual side of things about fasting and the various things that I've done. So over the years, experimented with various types of fasting. There's been times that I've felt called to specific kinds of fasting. And so I don't have a specific list. So I'm just going to run through these at random as they pop into my head. One of the first fasts I remember doing specifically because I felt called to do so was actually, I'll be honest, it was actually a bit of repentance that I was fasting for. It wasn't any kind of self-discovery or anything like that. It was simply that I did something that was really not good. And I went to God about it, and he called me to fast and pray for, I think it was 3 days. And so I said, okay, God, how do I do that? How do you want me to do this? And basically the guidance was to not have anything but vegetables for 3 days. I later found out that some people refer to this as a Daniel fast. There's a specific diet that is listed out in the story of Daniel. So there's some guidance there too, as far as the mechanics of it. But what I don't want you to miss is the reason why. There was a specific thing about this of saying you need to do this to. He was trying to grab my attention, and after that, it really changed a lot of things in my life. It really changed a lot of direction that I was heading. In some previous forms of fasting that I would call more like dieting, which is actually something I'm doing right now anyway. So this fast is going to be a piece of cake. That's never something this is going to be actually true, but dieting can be a form of fasting and can have a period of reflection along with it. And so it was in that one of the first times that I've went through that experience that I truly discovered what my life's purpose was. That's a big question for us to answer, right? Like, what's our life purpose? And for me, what I discovered was I am here to leave this world better than I found it. That was the thing that came to me in 2013. That was the vision. So that is what I endeavored to start living out. And it's been a fascinating journey from that point. But that was actually born out of a period of focus on health and dieting and that sort of thing. And born out of that was these thoughts of purpose and things like that. So much so that I am really wanting to figure out a way to set aside the time and effort to write a book that focuses on this process of when you deny yourself or put yourself into a purposeful discomfort, that really, really good things can come out of that. So much so that I think most growth can only come out of that level of discomfort. That was kind of the first time I experienced that intentionality. I saw some other times that I may not have the intention of putting myself into discomfort, but those were beneficial times. Like every time I've moved to a new city, for example, has been uncomfortable, but there's always been some sort of boost forward. It's been, I can't think of a lot of times where I've moved locations and had a worse life. This just doesn't happen all that often. And so there's some things about that are very uncomfortable, but they're good in the long term. So that's something that came out of that experience of discomfort of fasting or dieting. Some other times that I've fasted are just behavioral fasting. Now this is probably something people do more around the Lent time frame, where you're just taking one thing and basically denying yourself that. So I knew a lot of Catholics that would not do meat during Lent, for example, or some would just do just on Fridays. I don't understand some of those motivations, but the point of that is that you're denying yourself something that you enjoy on purpose. You're making that sacrifice to not to gain anything for yourself necessarily, at least I hope not, but to connect with that experience and be with God in that. And so, interestingly enough, one of the things that came to me during the wanting to lead this experience for people is I tried to figure out some easy way to have this not be on Facebook, because I know some people are wanting to fast from Facebook or just from social media. And it's going to be interesting to see what I end up doing with that. If that's you, let me know. I will be coming up with some alternatives. In other words, like just emailing you a Zoom meeting or something like that. I want you to participate, but that behavioral fasting is something that is often replacing one thing with another. In other words, you might want to start a new habit of daily prayer and meditation, for example. And you might say, I'm going to purposely replace any time that I want to spend on Facebook with prayer and meditation. Now, for some of you, that means that you should be meditating for 7 to 8 hours a day. But it's that practice of giving that up and having that focus time of replacing with something else, or just to live in that discomfort of that and see what kind of insights you get out of that, and or just to say, you know what, God, this is hurting my relationship with you. Let me give that up. And I want to take a drink of water. Water, by the way, one of the most important things about fasting is you always want to have more water. So I normally try to drink my body weight in ounces of water every day. During a fasting time, if you're doing any kind of food fasting, you want to increase that, regardless of your level of fasting. So we've talked about giving up meats. We're talking about vegetables only. What year was that? 2014, 2015, something like that. Wife and I did a juice fast, which is only having juice for a period of time. Now, we've done that a couple different times. In fact, this upcoming fast we're doing, I believe that's what her plan is to do a juice fast, a juice only fast, I should say. And that is an experience. I think there was a movie we watched, if I recall. It was called Fat, Sick, and Nearly Dead. And that really kind of opened our eyes to that and said, wow, let's try this out and see what kind of health benefits we get from it. So the first time we did a juice fast was actually to get the health benefits of it. It was really awesome. In future times, it was actually during a time of fasting. That was actually the first time I ever fasted to make a major decision in my life. I'm not sure I want to get into that live. In the group privately, I would be happy to discuss what that particular decision was. It was very much one of those things where I wanted to approach God with this and decided that a time of fasting was appropriate. And so we did it, if I remember correctly, I hope I do, but a juice fast was what we chose for that. And largely because knowing how a fast is going to affect you is important. And I'm going to get into some specific strategies that I have for that, both today and on Saturday. But a juice fast for me was like I had a slightly lower energy at first, and then all of a sudden there's like a burst of energy. Whereas doing like water only or even vegetables only, it was pretty much a straight line for me as far as my energy level was. So there's some reasons for that, but by and large, if you wanted to do a juice only, that's actually a pretty good way to. I very much enjoyed that time period of how I felt. Now, it got to the point where I never wanted to taste a cucumber again, but that was just my selection of juices maybe not have been ideal. So there's that. But there's a lot of things you can do with a lot of reasons you can do something like that. But I found that my mental state or my mental focus, because your brain actually uses a lot more kind of that power, that energy is used by the brain a lot more than people think. It burns a lot of calories. At the time, I was doing a lot of travel and consulting work. And so actually, I just realized something. The first time we did juice fasting, the very first time, was when I was consulting. It was actually my first trip to Nashville was centered around that time frame, or the first major contract I had here in Nashville, way before we moved here. So yeah, there was some juice fasting involved on the road, which ironically, I think water only is probably the easiest thing you can do on the road. But my energy overall, I don't necessarily recommend doing water only if you're traveling for a variety of reasons. One of which is if you're doing water fasting, or water only fasting, you want to make sure you're able to take naps and have some downtime it's very, very important when you're doing that. Your body is going through a lot. So definitely something I don't recommend beginners do as your first fast, any stretch. That's just not necessarily a good idea. Vegetables only and that sort of thing is a much better option because you're still giving your body calories and things like that, and it's just giving yourself specific things. Um, Pretty rarely do I ever want to recommend any kind of fasting that involves any kind of sugars or anything like that. But that's just me. So I talked about juice fasting. Another um, fasting I was introduced to was this water only fast, and the way I discovered that worked for me. And again, I'm not giving any kind of medical advice or anything like that. Um, was to taper down, do water only, and then taper slowly back up. Um, I found this out of some experiences dieting, actually. Um, I have a history of hypertension that thankfully has been kicked with some better management. But genetically speaking, I've got some what do they call that? Precollection. No, sorry, whatever the word is. There's a fancy word that says what you are likely to have with high blood pressure and that sort of thing, or hypertension. So yeah, that's something that you take somebody that's already potentially high strung and give them that. I've learned to not only chill but to manage a lot of that kind of stuff. So uh, yeah, it's a little ironic at times when people realize how chill I am that the high blood pressure thing. It's like, oh no, I need to stay chill. So, but the thing I discovered is that especially when you have hypertension, and especially if you're on any kind of medication, fasting is something you want to talk to your doctor about. Absolutely, don't talk to me about it. Don't even talk to other experts about it. Talk to your doctor about it. Trust me. Went through this the hard way. Um, but that was the overall recommendation, is that it wasn't bad, but it was something that I needed to ease myself into and let my body adjust. And there's been times that I've been doing like water only fasting, for example, and I've felt like overly lightheaded for too long, and I knew that was a blood pressure thing, and I needed um, to adjust that and kind of adjust my fast because of that, that sort of thing. So I'm getting way into details that are way risky of sounding like their advice. Trust me, I'm not trying to give advice here. I'm only trying to give my experiences and let you take that on your own. But the other things that I've done as far as fasting goes um, would be things like well, let's say this a different way. The water only fasting is something that I've done in varied lengths. And I think that has been the key for me is figuring out exactly how long I want to do my overall fast, and if I want to do water only, how much of that overall fast is going to be water only. And I've definitely made some mistakes in this. A couple of years ago, I wanted to do a sabbatical retreat. I think I talked about in one of the first live videos I did with this. And on the way down to this cabin that it was going to be, or cabin, or just place that I was at with no electricity, no running water, going back to my roots. um, Maybe more about that another time. But there is this temptation that people have when they're going into a fast to get things out of their system, to have something now because you're going to be denying yourself later. It's this weird kind of like, I gotta have this because it's gonna feel like I'm never gonna be able to have it again, even though you're totally gonna binge on that later. Um, yeah, so I went out and got this big hamburger and fries and a big shake or something like that, or sundae or something like that. And, just way horrible thing to do right before doing only water. I just went straight into water only, and I was miserable for a day and a half. I was like, I could barely move. It was just miserable. So that was a lesson learned to ramp in for sure. Um, I did want to talk about though one thing that I don't mind um, sharing publicly. I mean, there's some things that I don't, I don't always like to share in a public forum like this, but this one I don't mind. Um, and that is that sorry, I'm scrolling through and trying to find my notes on this, as I had something kind of written up and got a little flustered by this going live too early thing. So I apologize for that. But what I was trying to get at, I'm just going to go off my cuff of my off the top of my head because I can't remember my notes. In 2017, we moved here to the Nashville area, and I actually moved here because I wanted to do more with what we call platform development or online platforms and that sort of thing. I knew that was my eventual goal, and so knowing how many people are doing that sort of thing around here, and that is absolutely true. Trust me, it's way more people than I thought even was there initially. So it's and it keeps growing. But what I had encountered was that I was doing consulting work for a company, and they brought me on full time, and that came to an unfortunate and sudden end in November of uh, of 2017. And so one of the things we had been wanting to do is buy a house. We'd been married at that point for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years without having bought a house yet. We've been out of debt for years, but as an independent consultant, that was very difficult. And so our goal was to have a full-time job to make it easier to get a mortgage. That's what I was always told would be the kind of thing. And so that's something we were hoping to do while I was employed full time and that sort of thing. And so that was something that we had as a goal for 2018 anyway. So then I lost that job. Now, interestingly enough, for me, and this is one of the things we're going to be talking about when it comes to the 11 talents concept, absolutely key to this next week, is because of experiences exactly like that. I wasn't as worried. In fact, I had the opportunity right away to start going right back into independent consulting. There was no break. I had built, like it says in Ecclesiastes, the 7 to 8 ventures. I had not abandoned completely. I just kind of paused on any kind of consulting work. It was still something that was in my ability to do very quickly. Now, it just so happened that November I chose not to, and chose to take that time and write a book, which is I can't point. Yeah, that one right behind me is what that initially came out of that. But the interesting thing about that was that our church does a fast every January. We're aligning with this perfectly. I'm having you guys along for the ride for my church's fast is basically what we're doing here. So it just works. So the fun thing about this, and no, I'm not gonna say fun. Actually, it was kind of terrifying. Was going into December and then January. January being when we did the fast. I started to get the sense that it was time to buy a house. And when I got that word, I kind of laughed. And don't laugh at God. But we started praying about it. It's like, okay, this is like that impossible thing that we've always been told, that you can't get a mortgage if you're self-employed, much less with a break in income like we had. It's an absolute nightmare when it comes to underwriting. So that was one of the things we were very much grieving. It was like, well, it's going to be another 2 years before we can even talk about buying a home. And so that's what we were kind of told. And so we'd pretty much given up on that. So that's why I kind of laughed when I got that sense from God that I should be, seeking out a house. So this is so much fun. So much fun. So we prayed about it, and really focused in on petitioning God for that. Something that we might choose to spend some time about in this period from the 10th to the 20th that we're fasting. But we chose to seek God on that. I'm saying, okay, God, we have the sense that we're to look for a house. So we don't see how this is possible. This can only be you. Can only be you. And so what started to happen is resources came in left and right. We found out that our pastor's wife was also a realtor. And so we worked with her that she could work with a specific underwriter that was able to literally work magic in this point, as far as he's concerned. There were things about the whole process that even surprised him. But basically, we were able to get pre-qualified for a house that was quite literally twice what I was thinking we could have got qualified for. It turns out we could have gone even further. But then we start dreaming and start looking at houses and things like that. And that doubt sets in. You may not know what it's like in the Nashville area to be looking for real estate, even 2 years ago, much less now. I mean, it's got to be worse right now. But the amount of homes, the amount of time that you end up looking for a home in, especially this area in Franklin, can be, we were told, like, fully expect to be looking at homes, making offers, having them rejected for a period of like 6 to 8 months at least. So we completed the fast, and sorry, spam call coming in. I had to dismiss that right away. We completed the fast, and right away, things started happening. We got approved for way more than we thought we would need, and not just like, kind of qualified for it, but fully approved. Like you have this. All you have to do is find a home for it to live on, basically. And so that was very reassuring, and we knew that was good. And so now it was just a matter of the journey of finding a home. So we had a few to look at, and I was at Panera Bread. Just kind of maybe not the best place to be right after a fast, by the way. Nothing like a bunch of coffee and like bread and things like that. But yeah, it was okay. I was actually still kind of fasting at that, or still in a ramp up stage at that point. It was a couple of days after it was about a week or so after the fast, if I recall. And my wife had texted me or called me or something like that while I was there at Panera Bread reading a book, waiting for the time that I was going to be going to meet with pastor's wife to go look at homes. And something wasn't right. I could sense that she was undergoing a spiritual attack, and I let her know. I was like, no, we're going to rebuke this. We're not going to let this stand. And yeah, sure enough, that was exactly what it was. So I had a little moment of, okay, there's some things trying to happen here. And because I'd just gone through a bunch of fasting, my attention was different than it normally would be. And I was more focused, and I was in that habit of communing with God. And so it was just right there in a Panera Bread, taking a knee and praying through it, which is unusual for me. I'm not usually like that. But that's what I did. And, so I was actually finishing up a book called Living Forward by Michael Hyatt and Daniel Harkavy. I remember that quite well because that was a good everything coming together kind of moment. And I just got a sense of real peace about this, and it was about time to go. And so I walked out of there, and on the way to my car, I heard a word from from God. It was clear, like I don't usually hear words, but this was like a clear sense of words that could not have come from my mouth, and I'll tell you why. The word was, "You're going to find your new house today." Today. I was prepared for 6 to 8 months. I was going to look for a house just on my own. Remember, my wife's at work. She's like 45 minutes away. We had that level of preparedness as far as, being ready for me, Mr. Unemployed guy, like contractor, consultant guy, currently on hiatus, to go look for houses, which it was just kind of crazy. So we went to the first house. Yeah, it didn't quite feel right. It was the one we were most excited about, but it wasn't. I just knew it wasn't right. And then the second, and it was nice, but really not quite right. And then we went to the third house, and that also just wasn't quite right. And because we were nearby, I said, there's one that just came on the market this morning. I don't know if I don't know much about it. You'll be the first one to see it. Do you want to take a look? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. Let's go take a look. And pulled up to this house and immediately had this sense of, oh, well, this feels different. Walked to the front door and immediately knew. I was walking up to the front door and I had that immediate sense, but walked to the front door and just immediately knew this was my house. And not like it's nice. All I saw was the living room and dining room, and this was my house. That level of excitement and peace about it. So in that impossibility, I was like, okay, here we go. That's that. I toured the rest of the house. I loved everything about it. I was really excited about it. Had a nice big space that just screamed office. Had a nice big living room area that just I could envision. I could almost see people gathering in, which is important to us. And so I got my wife on the phone and showed her around. I did a virtual tour, and we decided to make an offer that night, which is, again, kind of crazy to do any of this kind of stuff. Even more crazy that they accepted the offer. Kind of more crazy that no one else saw this house. Kind of more crazy that everything lined up so perfectly that we were able to get in way ahead of schedule, so much so that we had, something like 4 months to move into this house. But here we are. I tell you all that to say that I firmly believe, had not we been obedient in fasting, I don't think that our mindset would have been in alignment with what God wanted for us all along. I think it was fasting that really brought us into that. And that is why I wanted to encourage a lot of you to fast with us. Last year, that same January timeframe, is when a lot of things started to be revealed of what was kind of being built in my life. It was when I realized that there was an overall vision of what the talents mean, what that parable means in terms of business. In terms of business being, diversified in the way you run things, which resonated with me. It just so happens that, when I run a topic area for for anything I'm doing as far as this kind of business that I run, I have 5 pillars. I call them the 5 C pillars. You have content, which is like blogs or books, things like that. You have community, which is often referred to as like having a membership or things like that are able to actually support and sometimes even generate revenue. You have coaching, which is obviously something that's important to me and I've done for revenue and masterminds and that sort of thing. It's very, very important. Actually, it's kind of between the line of community and coaching with that, but it works. And then you have courses, which are something that is very important to me as well, as far as teaching beyond just the regular content and going deep in. And then, of course, consulting, which is the thing that I've been doing as a cornerstone of this business. So every topic area had these 5 pillars. So for me, the first one was this technology called Citrix. And this is where I built these 5 pillars, all based around that technology. And so whenever there was one that didn't work or one that wasn't doing well, you had other pillars kind of supporting that. The metaphor worked really well. And then I figured out, oh, wait, it can't be coincidence that I have 5 pillars and there's a servant that was given 5 talents. That's kind of cool. And they multiplied that to 10. Well, what's the next thing I started working on? Well, a new topic area. So I have this methodology topic that I call, it's just like, instead of just being focused on just a technology, now I'm focused on the application of that and soft skills, things like that. So there's a further application. So you have 5 more pillars to build up on that. And so it's like layers, or like floors of a building that you're building up until you have this massive building. Now it's the vision. And I was like, yeah, this is awesome. Let's go do it. Let's go do it all. And beyond that, I also realized that there's a second element of the parable, and I mentioned this a couple days ago, but it's that the 2 talent, the servant that was given 2 talents that multiplied them to 4, also did what the person with the 5 talents was doing. And so there's a mentoring there, an emulation sort of thing, and that's very much why I'm doing this. I've long ago not wanted to be the 1 talent slave. I don't want to be that. It's just deciding that just only using my talents for one thing is wasteful and wrong. And so, yeah, there's some things about that. I also noticed that the admonition of "well done, good and faithful servant" was given to both the 2 talent and 5 talent servants. That's important too. It's actually really important, and that's why actually I think that right there is what's driving me towards this current period of fasting. What I did last year was to two things. One was to realize that there was this possibility, and it's really easy to get really excited about all the different kind of things that you can do. I've spent the last 4 years collecting information and knowledge and courses and books and all these kind of things, and just putting them together and just being able to take action. And what I tried to do initially was to try to do all of that at once. It was through the latter part of the fasting that I found the information of just do one thing at a time. Yes, build out these multiple things, but don't do it all at once. That's a mistake. And that's why I decided, okay, well, there's something I need to decide on what I'm going to do. And previously, I really felt a call to publish a book, and so I did. And then I've felt this burning to finish and publish the second book, which, in the grandest of ironies, the second book was actually the first that I wrote. It was the one back in 2017 that was sitting unpublished for a long time. And so, has this meant that I'm now a multimillionaire? Nope. No. Actually, financially, last year was one of our worst on record as far as income. But as far as accomplishments and getting through things and having a sense of purpose and that God is with what we're doing, I've never felt strongly as strongly as I do right now about the progression of things and what this is all building, that I can actually now equip others with. There's now platforms that didn't exist previously, really, for me to bring others in and not just have this be all about me, which is fantastic. And so I'm really enjoying that aspect of things. So that's all made possible because of a single period of fasting that I went through. It was actually a second period of fasting last year, right about the time when we went through all the lockdowns and things like that. We actually did a much longer fast. Actually, that particular one, I did, I believe, 21 days of water only, which was intense. But was it 14? It was 14 days, 21 days total, 14 days of water only. Sorry, speaking there, but it was pretty intense. So um, that's in a nutshell kind of my fasting experiences and why I'm passionate about this. Because in all these times, there's always been just something fantastic on the other side of a fast. And given the things that I see about myself, I really want to discover what my next one big thing is. And so that's the reason I don't have any annual goals written up yet. That's the reason I don't that I'm kind of very much an open book about this, and it's kind of loose. It's not really like this tight program kind of thing, that you'd go through. That's not what we're doing here. We are experiencing this together. So it's going to be, it's going to have its ups and downs. But the cool thing about this is that I'm confident that on the other side of this, I'm going to be shown the way that I can have the most positive impact on the rest of the world that I could possibly have. Whether that's just individuals at a time that I'm coaching through or doing a mastermind with, whether that's speaking on stages and sharing a message, or writing books, whatever that's going to look like. I'm confident, and I'm believing God for a clear sense of direction for what things are going to look like. One of the things I'm also approaching him with, by the way, is whether I should be setting annual goals or just like for a quarter, and just taking things from that sort of approach as well. So that's something that I'll be approaching as well. Man, it's been weird not to see if anybody's hearing this or seeing chats or anything like that. I have no idea if somebody's messaging. Actually, I should test this out real quick and say, hey, from myself, and see if it does show up. Okay, so there's a mechanism that I can see chats if I turned it on, and I now have it on. So if you have any questions, type them into the comments section of wherever you're viewing this from, and I'll see if I see it. If not, I'll try and review afterwards and reply back to you after the fact. But if you have any questions about the things that I've gone through specifically, I can certainly answer those. Again, I'm not going to be giving any kind of medical advice or anything like that. Certainly not any financial advice. But I'm certainly happy to answer any questions about my exact experiences. More than happy to do that. So if you have any of those, feel free to type those in or just even say hi. It's fun too. The other thing I'll say about this, well, as far as the fasting for next week, which is January 10th through the 20th, is use this time, these next 3 days, to think more on that, but don't make any decisions until you're ready to. And I say that because really the fasting in some cases begins by ramping things down. And so, for example, in my case, I am today was the last day I was going to do coffee. But coffee is one of those things where it's just like, I'd rather do the headaches now than do the headaches all at once. Some people like to just get it out of the way because it's inevitable. I mean, we all know this when we have a lot of caffeine or salts in your diet, sugars. When you give that up, your body's natural response is to say something's not right, and you'll get a headache. That's kind of the way it works, as I understand it. So I'm ramping down towards being ready for just water for a couple of days during the fast. But I'm taking that time in advance. So this is a good time if you want to do any kind of fasting that involves removing sugar, for example. I find that I need a good 2-3 days of lowering carbohydrates in general slowly. Otherwise, I get really miserable energy wise, and I just get very, very grouchy, which I don't know if I get truly grouchy, but grouchy for me. Let's put it that way. So that's something that I do. Now, fortunately, like I mentioned, I'm actually already on a diet plan, and so I don't have a lot of carbohydrates in my system right now. There's a little bit, and so I will be taking some further steps to ramp that down to 0 in preparation of fasting. So your body's kind of kicked into this ketosis mode, which I'm sure Kevin will talk about more on Saturday. But yeah, feel free to join us in the Facebook group. We'll have more information about all this. You can share how you're fasting, get feedback from people, get inspiration, or give inspiration. Actually, that's probably my biggest challenge for people in the group, is to give more than you get. If somebody gives you a reply to a comment, you make sure to give 2 replies. That sort of thing. Try to give more than you get. Challenge yourself. That's the whole point of this, is to realize that when we depend on God for our sustenance and for our being, then we can do more than we think we can. And if you are in a weakened state when you're doing food fasting, for example, or mentally, there's well, I'm just going to come right out and say it. And I know this is kind of ironic that I'm streaming to social media platforms, but we have to recognize that there's an addiction here. For me, it's not necessarily Facebook these days. I've actually taken it off. I took it off my phone months ago, and so I just do web browser for if I'm ever on Instagram, which isn't very often anymore, or Facebook. It's all on the web browser. But YouTube is kind of my addiction right now. So if you ask me to go without YouTube, I'd be hurting. It's probably not that bad, but it is something that is kind of I spend a lot of time on that platform, just scrolling through videos and that sort of thing. I'm finding it more enlightening for me than scrolling through the stuff of social media. So I definitely, like I said, recognize that there's an addictive quality to all these kind of things. And so if you are wanting to maybe not fast, but I would encourage you to reduce, and say very specific. For me, I'll tell you one thing that I do, just to kind of give a tip, is that I use a bookmark to go to Facebook on my browser. That bookmark goes specifically to groups. So in this case, I've adjusted the bookmark so it goes directly to facebook.com/groups/11talents2021 Jan. There's the link again. So that's the link for our group. So that's my interaction with Facebook, and probably will be for the next few months. Everything else comes in automatically. I have other services that feed into that. It's sort of like this. I didn't go on to Facebook to schedule this live. I actually did this through Restream.io. It's doing this on my behalf, and so that's another thing I've been learning, is that you can interact without interacting, without feeding the addiction monster. And so, but if there's some behavioral fasting that's in your fast, say that in the group. Let us support you in that. Let us help you with that. We do plan to have a few times of being together, like on Zoom, just kind of a mastermind style group. I don't know how big the group's going to be. I honestly don't know. It could be 20, it could be 200, it could be 2,000. I have no idea how this is going to go. But no matter how many, we will figure out a way to make it happen. And whether that means splitting up into groups or whatever, we have. I fortunately have resources at my disposal that a lot of people wouldn't necessarily have, just because of the kind of things that I do. And so it's things like this that I have access to that we can utilize. And so Don't let anything like that hold you back. We will find a way to get you involved in interacting no matter what. If you're completely fasting, social media, just let me know privately, and we can make arrangements there. But I do encourage you to take this time seriously and choose a way that fasting is going to work for you. If you're still confused about fasting, join us Saturday, 10 a.m. Central Time, which is 11 time Eastern, all that kind of stuff. A link for that is in the Facebook group, and I will try and I think I have to look at that if I scheduled that outside of the group. I honestly don't remember if I did or not. But join us for that to answer your questions about fasting for food or food fasting. And by then you'll be able to make a decision. We're going to start the fast on right around sundown in the U.S. On Sunday night on the 10th, and then we will end the fast right about the same evening time on the 20th. So depending where you are, I'm just going to encourage you to just do sundown to sundown, and we'll have live coverage of both times, either here in Zoom, if I can ever figure out how to make this work better, or just on live platforms where you can actually chat with me and interact, and I can actually see them, which unfortunately, like I said, I apparently can't now. So I've got some work to do to review and make sure nobody left any comments for me, I guess. But nonetheless, I do appreciate your time today, and I do wish you a blessed time of fasting. I do encourage you to join us, facebook.com/groups/11 talents. That's 11 talents 2021 JAN. 11 talents 2021 January. Okay. Look forward to seeing you. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me directly. I am one of the most reachable people on the planet, I guarantee. So there are various ways. I don't even need to say them here. Just direct message me from whatever platform you're seeing this on. But the Sun seems to have my email address anyway, so feel free to email me as well, or whatever mechanism works for you. I look forward to serving you throughout these next, well, I guess at this point, 14 days? Yeah, over the next 14 days or so. Cheers, everyone, and I will see you very soon.